How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. I hope you're having a great week playing a ton of video games. I'm splitting my time between three right now: Dying Light the Following, Battlefield 6, and Dying Light the Beast. I'm having a ton of fun. I hope you are too. In today's video, I've got three topics to cover, starting out with more themes that have been added to the PlayStation 5, and I'm pretty happy about one of them. After that, let's talk about how fans are bringing back the PlayStation 3, and I might have to dig mine out of storage because this is awesome. And finally, one of the PS5's best new features that was ripped directly from Steam just got even better, and I think this is going to be pretty cool. Jumping right into the first news story here, the theme situation on the PlayStation 5 is a little weird, of course, because it's basically relegated to the Welcome Hub. There's a really cool feature where you can make any game have a custom background. All you have to do is go to the PlayStation Store, go to any game you want a background from, and look for those high-resolution 4K screenshots, hit the share button, save the screenshot, and then there you go. You've got a custom theme that looks like any game you want. I'm pretty sure my PS5 upstairs is still decked out with Space Marine 2, and then my PS5 downstairs, my PS5 Pro, is using the theme of the PlayStation 2 because that one has the best look and feel of any of the themes that Sony added in. I miss the themes from the PS3 and PS4 that would change the music, the backgrounds, the sound effects, all the icons and everything, but it doesn't look like we're getting any of those back. So this new update really does feel like the next best thing, because Sony is now putting dynamic wallpapers, live wallpapers for the Welcome Hub in from third-party games. So one of them is more boring than the other to me personally. It's for NBA 2K26. I like that game. I play 2K. I like basketball a lot, but like I'm not going to put a basketball game as my PlayStation 5's background. I'm sure there are people out there who will be excited about that, but then on the other side of the spectrum, you've got Battlefield 6, and the art they picked is perfect for October because it's that cool picture that they use from the $100 edition of all the operators all lined up, and it's black and orange. I immediately am going to go run upstairs and switch my PS5 to that background because it's like mixing my favorite game that I'm playing right now with my favorite time of the year, Halloween. I think it's a great background. I think at this point in the generation, this is the best we're going to get, unfortunately, which really kind of sucks because back in the day, if you guys didn't play the PS4 or PS3, the themes you would get were excellent. They even had promotions where if you platinumed a game or beat a game, specifically with Square Enix, you would get rewarded with a really cool dynamic theme. And it was just an extra level of creativity and fun that they would add into games and give you an incentive to actually finish them. I think that was more in line with what people want for finishing games than these new franchise rewards. I know people still hate those, but like I think it's pretty cool. I just wish they would bring back the themes because people have been asking for them. We had them on literally every PlayStation console, even the PlayStation Vita with its bizarre bubble-based touchscreen oriented operating system. We got a 20th anniversary theme. You could change the background, you could change the colorways, you could do so much stuff on even the PlayStation Vita that not having any sort of themes outside of just changing the Welcome Hub background on the PlayStation 5, it's just kind of a bummer. It is cool that on the PS5 Pro you get a little bit of a flex with the custom live wallpaper that's exclusive to that console, but even that is not exclusive because you could just download the picture, put it on a flash drive, put it into your console, and then just add it to the Welcome Hub into the share library and make it your custom background. You do get motion in the PS5 Pro exclusive version, but like ideally you're never seeing it, right? Like when you're on your PlayStation 5, I would hope at the very least you're playing games. So like themes ultimately don't matter, but they were a cool thing that Sony took away for seemingly no reason outside of, you know, launching into ads on the PlayStation Store when you boot up your console. So I guess launching into the Welcome Hub versus that is a big step in the right direction, especially since it's so customizable. I'll take what I can get. NBA 2K and of course Battlefield 6. Those are two of the biggest games that are coming out this year, just sheer numbers wise, and they're kind of hitting both types of PlayStation fans. So it's a good step. I just wish we would get regular themes back. And I'm pretty sure most of you agree with that sentiment. But second on the list, speaking of PlayStation 3, let's talk about how this amazing console is coming back because this is pretty exciting. So if you remember way back to the PlayStation 3, when it launched, it had like no good games really, if we're just being honest. You got GT5 Prologue, which was decent. It was like a demo version of GT5 to like show off what you were going to be able to do in the game. It was one of those games that you got for free in like the first month or something, and then they sold box copies of it for 20 bucks. You got Heavenly Sword, you got Lair, and outside of that, there wasn't a whole lot. So Sony went to their first party studios, they bought a lot of studios and said, look, if you've got creative ideas for first party games, get them into production now because we need a lot of first party games coming out. And that's how we got Uncharted, that's how we got Killzone 2, that's how we got Resistance 2, that's how we got Infamous. Like, the amount of amazing games we got during that era was kind of unheard of at the time, specifically from Sony. So during that time was like the first time my friends and I all got jobs and we had spending money during the summer, which was great because back then, unlike now, games just didn't come out in the summer. So what you would do is make a list of all the games you didn't get for Christmas or didn't get for your birthday that came out maybe earlier in the year or the year prior, and then you'd wait for those summer buy two get one free used game sales at GameStop, and you just benefit from that because not only would the overall price be cheaper because they were older games, you could buy two of them and get one free. And one of those free games I got was Mod Nation Racers. I had no idea what it was. I saw it was made by a Sony studio, or at least published from Sony, and it looked like a kind of a ripoff, if we're being honest, of Mario Kart. And I sunk so many hours into that game because once I started playing it, it ended up being a pretty good clone of Mario Kart, but it was a lot deeper than Mario Kart. There was a lot more skill, a lot more stuff to account for, and it had really good driving physics. Like, it was deceptively difficult to really learn the ins and outs of that game. And the biggest feature that came along with it was custom tracks, and a lot of the game was focused on multiplayer. So when the servers were taken offline, it was a huge bummer. And now fans are back, bringing back this game's online functionality, and it's honestly super easy to take advantage of. All you need to do is download the game to your PS3 or pop the disc in, and then set your DNS server to a custom one, which is 45.32.179.33. And once you do that, it reactivates the online mode in Mod Nation Racers. Now, depending on how you feel about this game, it's either going to be really exciting to you or not exciting at all. But the real win here is that they could do this for other games that have had their servers taken offline. Like Uncharted 3 had a completely underrated multiplayer mode. Resistance 2 was honestly one of the first experiences I had in online multiplayer. And I'd imagine there are a lot of big groups of nostalgic people out there, or small groups that are split up from the big group, that have all these memories playing these online games. And I don't know if the software they use to reactivate the online services for Mod Nation Racers can be transferred to other games, but it's cool for the future because eventually PS4 and PS5 games are going to be taken offline, and the same thing's going to happen where people have all this nostalgia to play multiplayer games from their past, and they'll be left in a situation where it's completely up to Sony or whoever the publisher is to kind of get those servers online again, or just never take them offline. And as we've seen, after decades of online games being taken offline, the odds of that happening are close to zero. Like, even games that were sold as completely online, like The Crew, have been taken completely offline. So knowing that there is a stopgap, a way for people to reactivate online servers for games that are over a decade old on the PlayStation 3, that makes me kind of excited and hopeful for the future when it comes to playing these online games that were all so awesome back in the day and are still so awesome now. I'd imagine that once they start doing it to the PS4 generation, it's going to get a lot harder because that's when online was like truly integrated into the game. Like, back in the day, you'd have one studio, the main studio, building out the single player, and then like Sony and everyone else just kind of felt like they had to have a multiplayer component. So they'd usually pay a third-party studio to just take the assets and come up with the multiplayer mode. I think that kind of died out with Doom 2016, if we're being real, and then it was kind of brought back by Saber Interactive with, of course, Space Marine 2. It had a very 2007 era Gears of War style multiplayer mode where nothing was balanced. You could cheese the hell out of it, and it was a ton of fun. But the reason those types of games died out is because once there's no balance, people just rise to the top. They get their fill of the multiplayer gaming and move on. But I just want these games to survive. So it's cool to see that even after all these years, the PS3, one of the best consoles of all time, and honestly my favorite Sony console ever made, is still being kept alive with one of the coolest games that honestly was underrated. So more Mod Nation Racers trivia. I was really excited that it was one of the launch titles for the PS Vita. It was like a not necessarily remake of Mod Nation Racers because I think it was a standalone game, but it didn't have online multiplayer. It had the track sharing, I'm pretty sure, like where you could create tracks and share them online, but the only way to interact with multiplayer was through ad hoc. So if your friend had a PS Vita, you could play it with them. I mean, this is not going to shock anyone, but I never played the multiplayer in Mod Nation Racers on Vita because I think I was honestly the literal only single person in my entire college who bought a PlayStation Vita. One of my friends, Joey, in freshman year, bought the white Assassin's Creed Liberation one. He flipped it on eBay within a week. So I never got a chance to play Mod Nation Racers online, but I might have to dig the PS3 out to give this a shot because this is awesome. And finally, that brings us to the third news story, which is Sony has improved one of the PS5's best new features, which is being able to rate games on the PlayStation Store. So back when this was launched, I was like, it's cool that you can go on the PlayStation Store and rate games like out of 5 stars, because that gives people a way to know if the game is good or bad or worth buying. Because mostly on Steam, when you get positive reviews or negative reviews, it's mostly down to performance or predatory microtransactions, whether or not it's positive or negative. So like when Sony added in the forced online connectivity by logging into the PlayStation Network in Helldivers 2, you saw the review scores drop massively, and then Sony course corrected and took that requirement out, because having mostly negative reviews is a good way to make sure your game never sells. So like the star ratings were cool, but I wanted them to introduce full reviews because I actually use those on Steam a lot, especially for old games that I don't know if they're going to run well modernly or not. The fact that you can still review them even if they're old games means that if there's some critical patch that stops it from working on modern systems, you'll know about it because the game will have mostly negative reviews. So Sony quietly added in that feature, but you had to be on the web PlayStation Store and you could add in reviews, which is why you started seeing them populate the PlayStation Store on your PS5. But with the recent update, they didn't announce this. They added in this feature on the PlayStation 5. So you can use your DualSense to type out full reviews of games. So like a game like, I don't know, Metal Gear Solid Delta, if you're playing it on PS5 Pro, you could give it a 3 or 4 star rating and let everyone know that it looks and runs worse on the PS5 Pro than the regular PS5 because, you know, they don't have the ability to switch between performance and quality mode. And then the developers could potentially see that and say, hey, we are actually getting a lot of negative reviews on this game and it's actually impacting our sales. So we'll go back and tinker on this game and fix the performance and quality modes on the PS5 Pro, and everyone will be happy because the studio will sell more games and the gamers will get a better quality product at the end of the day. I think a huge reason this took so long to make its way to PlayStation 5 is, of course, because developers probably don't like when their games get negative reviews because it impacts sales, but it's really on them, right? Like, release a quality product, release a finished product, release one that doesn't have DLC off the disc or predatory microtransactions, and bam, you'll probably end up with a pretty positive review score. But if you do what all these other developers have been doing lately, which is releasing their games 80% done and waiting 6 months to a year to finally finish them with patches after everyone's played it and moved on, you're going to get a negative review score until you fix that crap. And they'll be more incentivized to do it because I'd guess that the amount of people who actually go through the effort to change their negative review if and when the game is fixed is probably much smaller than the amount of people who are willing to just leave a negative review and never touch it again. If you're someone who wants to be the PS Store's ultimate game reviewer, invest in a keyboard. Your PS5 can interact with mouse and keyboard, so I'd imagine that when you're on the PlayStation Store, when you get these text fields that pull up where you can leave massive long reviews for these games, it would probably be a lot easier to use a keyboard than a DualSense controller. But, you know, if you're someone who's gotten really good at typing with the DualSense, you can probably rival people using a keyboard and mouse at this point, which is pretty damn impressive. But yeah, guys, this is one of the best features on the PlayStation Store. I'm glad Sony is constantly improving it. I like the refinement of the PS5 ecosystem. It's basically been perfected, which is why when I hear about the PS6, I'm like, what are they going to do for the operating system? I just don't think it can get much better than what we have now. But anyway, guys, that's all I have for you in today's video. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.